Peace, and blessings, everyone. Maurice here with you and Sister Camille
Yeah.
to bring another update or at least update for this week about what has been going on. Goma on the siege, and just a lot of activity. But we're going to try and keep it focused to the essentials. We'd like to address today, but three or four questions. First, what's happening with our people on the ground? They're in Goma under the new administration that they have. Second, speak to the diplomatic activity that's taking place outside of the Congo, and third, the call to action. We've posted on our Instagram page call to action. If you haven't seen it, Keto will post it again, and we'll post it throughout the show. Uh, the call to action for you know what people can do, no matter where they are in the world. There's something that everyone can do that can help to contribute to bringing an end to this catastrophic humanitarian situation that we see in the east of Congo. And starting there, we're in constant communication with our folks on the ground. Those of you who have followed us over the last year or so, you know that we work with a range of organizations in the different camps in and around Goma, particularly in the Bulengo camp, Rosario, and a few others. So, with particularly, especially women's organizations that are actually located in the camps, and we shared with you just before the capture of Goma that the folks, particularly those out in Bulengo, had to move because bombs were dropping on them, and they had to get up and move into the city. And due to your support, and we were able to mobilize the resources to move them into the city to a safer location, where they still are to this very day. And they're getting access to food, to water, putting up new shelter. Uh, as they are located in, in, in the city of Goma. Now, with the capture of the city and the new administration, um, some of the camps are being emptied out. In Kanyaruchina, for example, the new administration, the new folks, those were the Rwandans and the M23 setting up new administration. They've put folks in trucks and shipping them back to their villages. So that process has begun with some of the camps. You'll look at some of the videos that are out there. You see that camps that were there fully blown are now empty. Just nothing. So those are people who are being sent back to their villages, and just a sense of what folks are saying who are under this new regime in Goma, that they're just moving with caution. Uh, there's a lot of uncertainty. The situation is fluid, but they're staying in their place, and they're not trying to move from one part of the city. Actually, you can't move from one part of the city to the next. People only move on a as needed basis because situation is still very, very, very tendentious, very, very capricious. You just don't know what's going to happen from one moment to the next. So those are the folks that we're working with who are still in Goma. Uh, at the same time, there are a number of people we've been able to assist get out of Goma. You know, back outside of Goma, outside of North Kivu. So we're grateful for your support and assisting us in that regard. Now, uh, recently, or just today, I guess, there's just been horrifying or horrific reports that have come out. Some of the what's being revealed or discovered now that things have settled a little bit. We shared with you when the Rwandan soldiers and M23 were going block by block, locking down Goma. People were just sending us recordings of gunfire, bullets coming through their doors, and having to stay low. It was just nightmarish situation. So now we're seeing some of the outcomes of that nightmare. And Camille, maybe you can share some of what you've read and what you've heard with folks about what has happened, some of the things that have happened in
Yeah, for sure. One of the articles that I read on The Guardian talked about a prison being burnt after the women were raped. So there was a prison escape where I think the numbers were around 4,000 prisoners escaped or major prison breakout, and the woman quarter, they essentially like went, raped all of them, and then set the room on fire. So they died. Um, that is very brutal. And as of Tuesday, there has been about like 2,000 bodies, but that number is probably lower than, well, it's going to rise. There has, what were some other updates?
I know we were talking. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, I know we were talking about. I think it was the day before yesterday, where the UN was reporting 700 dead,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the folks on the ground who works at the morgue, was sharing with us like, that number is low. They're saying 7,000 dead, but they're more like 2,000. Right? So we were debating whether or not we should put those numbers out. We're just saying let's wait for the official numbers to come out. So what the folks at the morgue was sharing with us is entirely consistent with what we see now. So, and they're likely to rise. And the UN is still calling. They're engaged. They're in conversation with the M23 leadership and new
Mm-hmm.
leadership of Goma to try and get a humanitarian corridor to get the Goma airport open
Yeah.
again, so that they can get much needed humanitarian aid in. The reporting, UN representative reported to the Guardian that the situation is dire. So we need to keep pressure on global leaders, world leaders, to to. Somebody said, "Do we have current numbers? Current numbers for what? I'm not sure. There are about 3,000 people who died. Who they found in Goma, over the last 5 days or so as a result of the capture of the city. And Camille had shared the numbers with the other women who've been raped as a part of the escape. Like the prison has a women's wing, or has a women's wing to it. Men and women in the prison. All the men escaped. Everybody's escaping, but the women, they were trapped. They were raped, and then they were burnt, incinerated. Folks were saying, "Would you like me to send pictures so you to see?" I said, "No, just don't want to see the pictures." But what the point is there, though, they're mass crimes, atrocities, war crimes, crimes against humanity being committed. So certainly the International Criminal Court, African courts, all ought to be on this to see who exactly committed these crimes. M23, Rwandan soldiers, and uh, and there has to be justice. Justice has to be delivered. Go ahead, Camille.
No, I mean, like a lot of what you said is what I was thinking and what the article talked about. The article also briefly mentioned, and you sort of said this, that the right now MONUSCO and M23 are in conversations, but they aren't allowing them, like they're only allowing food for the MONUSCO and the UN volunteers. They're not allowing food for um, Congolese, and they're the so they have there was a ceasefire was announced couple yesterday. Was it yesterday or two?
Yeah, he was just
But
a
there was like broken.
unilateral ceasefire on the
Yeah,
part of the
unilateral
M23.
ceasefire that was already broken. There are the Burundians have sent around 2,000 troops to Bukavu, which is, I
Mhm.
think, part of um, why M23 is potentially rethinking some of their steps. Um, yeah, and then the MONUSCO um, Van der Peer, I think is her name. She was saying that, like, despite Rwanda saying, and I mean, everybody is saying that Rundi's forces are in Congo except for Rwanda, but like, she was saying that MONUSCO,
It's become laughable at this point, right?
yeah,
It's just yeah.
yeah, it's like at this point, like, yeah, we can just say that the Rundi's forces are in Goma and patrolling because she said that, yeah, MONUSCO has seen Rwandan soldiers during patrols.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, so there's no doubt, of course, that they're there. There's no doubt at all. So uh, I think probably one of the most revealing interviews was with Paul Kagame on CNN, where the interviewer asked him, Mr. President, whatever, you have soldiers, Rwandan soldiers in the Congo, and he's like, I don't know. He says he goes on to ask him, as Commander in Chief, uh, do you have soldiers in the Congo? You, as Commander in Chief, you don't know. And Kagame, of course, responds, I don't know a lot of things. you know. So there's this cavalier arrogance that you know, he, he acts with, he puts out, and there's this saying. I saw some Congolese posting something on, or they're sharing. We're in a conversation. I don't know if it's a Congolese saying. It says when you see a cow on the top of a tree, you know he didn't get there by himself. So they're basically saying Kagame is the cow on the top of the tree. He's able to uh, threaten Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa with war. He's able to get access to CNN, right, and spew all kinds of nonsense that we know is untrue. So, because he's got this kind of backing, and that kind of segues into some of the diplomatic activity that's unfolding. The G7 issued a statement. European Union had a meeting. The the East African community and the Southern African Development Community is supposed to be meeting this in a few days. So there's still a
Friday, right?
Mhm.
I think it's Friday.
Either Friday or Saturday, and one of those 2 days. Uh, so there's like a flurry of diplomatic activity. Now we haven't seen any sanctions, any withholding of aid, or any kind of concrete action or any concrete response to what the Congolese foreign minister had laid out at the United Nations. Calling for sanctioning of top Rwanda officials, calling for a blockade of or an embargo rather of minerals coming out of Rwanda. Um, you know, calling for um, you know swift action against the Rwandan government for Rwanda to remove its troops from the Congo. So there hasn't been any concrete action taken as yet. Now, it's so important for people to understand that this war, um, this war of aggression and plunder that the Rwandan government is waging against the Congolese people on the bodies of women, as you've seen in the recent reports. It's not just happening in Goma, right, or in North Kivu. It's happening globally in the sense that they have to justify this. So the foreign minister will get you know, run a government spokesperson, foreign minister, the president. They have to justify. They have to spin a particular narrative, right? And the narrative that they're saying is that they're there to protect a minority group, right? Uh, so what that means is that each and every one of you that are listening to this, watching us, you can play a role in uh, confronting the narrative that's put out there, because even if their narrative was correct, they wouldn't even have a dispute with the narrative that they're there to protect a minority group and they have concerns. It's hard for me to see if everybody in Congo is a minority, right? And really, if you were to talk about who's most discriminated against group in the Congo, you'd probably have to go to the Mbuti or the Twa, the so-called pygmy, in terms of discrimination. Uh, but in any case, this is what Rwandan government is saying, that they're going to protect the minority group. And does it warrant, 4,000 soldiers occupying a space the size of your own country, unleashing special forces to capture a city that's the size, half the size of Washington, D.C., with about 2 million people, 3,000 that we know and counting dead, hundreds of women raped and burned in a prison. You know, all the devastation that we're seeing right now. Uh, even if you don't know anything about the dynamics locally, if somebody comes, a president like Kagame comes and says, "We're there to, we're supporting the protection of a minority group," you have to ask the question, you know, is this what it takes? You were saying that there were no other options, right? And so we know that the narrative, it's a false one. But even if it was 100% true, it doesn't warrant what we see now, the type of suffering, the humanitarian catastrophe that we see unfolding in Goma in particular, and in the North Kivu province in general. So what that means is that we on the outside have a crucial role to play. That is to confronting the false narrative and articulating what we know to be true. This is a 30-year war of aggression and plunder by U.S. allies, Rwanda in particular, to some extent Uganda. A war of aggression and plunder that they could not have waged this long without the backing of the Western powers, and we see that right now because I think, Camille, you said you were reading something from the European Union and some of the proceedings. They're Even though they acknowledge the dire situation, they're hesitant to put
Mm-hmm.
pressure on their clients,
Mm-hmm.
to withhold aid from their agent.
Mm-hmm.
This, what we see unfolding in the Congo, what we've seen unfolded over the last 3 decades, could not have happened without the backing of Western powers, right? The arming, the financing, the training, the provision of intelligence, the running of diplomatic and political interference. So we've launched, we've already sent it out, but we've launched an action item that where everybody can take an action. And Camille, I don't know if you want to go into some of them. We can go back and
Yeah,
forth.
we can go back and forth.
Yeah,
I can start with the first one.
yeah,
So the first one is demonstrate at Rundi's embassies. Join or organize a demonstration at Rundi's embassy. NBA basketball arena or city hall near you to stand in solidarity with the Congolese people. So the demand is to not visit Rwanda because there's a huge Visit Rwanda campaign with Arsenal, Paris Saint Germain, like all those big football teams, and also Formula One. We
yeah.
recently found. So like demands to no more aid to Rwanda, withdraw of all Rundi's troops and M23 militia from the occupied territories in eastern DRC, and provide immediate humanitarian relief in Goma.
All right. So there are demonstrations taking place all over. We had one in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, in London, Brussels, Paris, Toronto. Folks are demonstrating. So we encourage you to support those demonstrations, join them, amplify them, as folks are demonstrating in front of the European Union, demonstrating in front of uh, Rwandan embassies. It's vital for you to show up and let the Congolese people know that you support their call for peace, their call for justice, their call for accountability. You can visit our page, but there are a number of other pages that people are constantly sending us demonstrations that they're having, and we amplify it, we share it on our Instagram page, and then on our Twitter page as well. I don't think there's one central location for demonstrations, but if you follow any of the follow us on Instagram and on Twitter, you'll be able to get a good sense of where demonstrations are taking place and when. So that's one, and you can pull together your networks if you're part of peace groups and different networks, and you would like to do a demonstration or organize something in front of an NBA arena. We told the folks in Toronto that go organize in front of the Raptors. The president of the Toronto Raptors and tight with Paul Kagame, and we need to let the sports washing entities, their partnerships that Kagame's established, the NBA, and we recently learned Formula One, of course, the football teams in Europe. They established these relationships to say visit Rwanda, promote Rwanda, and Rwanda is seen as a good citizen, right, of the world. Uh, and as these sports teams are uplifting Rwanda, they're committing mass crimes, crimes against humanity, war crimes that the United Nations said, possibly even genocide, if the Rwandan soldiers are brought in front of a competent court. So that's one action that everybody can participate in, no matter where you are in the world. Let your voice be heard in solidarity with the Congolese people. What's the second one?
The second one is also don't visit Rwanda.
Okay.
And I think that one is then like more specific to like artists who are also visiting, like Kendrick Lamar, Dave Chappelle, John Legend. But let's go to the third one.
Oh, let's stick with the second one there for a sec, so we can have folks really, zoom in on this. Thames, the artist from Nigeria, she canceled her trip to Kigali. She was supposed to go to Kigali as a part of a performance, and she canceled it. So she big up to Thames. Those of you who are Thames fans, and Congolese people really appreciated that because they're saying that as long, she was saying basically those who are canceling are saying as long as Rwanda is occupying the Congo and being a part of their committing those atrocities, that we're not going to support that. It's not going to be business as usual. So on February 21st, as part of initiative by Global Citizen, right? Global Citizen, John Legend is scheduled to be in Kigali to perform. So we're asking folks, hit him up. We've been reaching out to folks who know him, but we need to do it on Twitter and on Instagram in particular, and call on him, to support life, because when you go to Kigali right now, you're supporting death, you're supporting destruction, you're really covering the ravaging of the Congo that the Rwandan soldiers are doing. So, for the moment, the main person that we're appealing to is John Legend. He's very active here in the United States in civil rights and Black Lives Matter. Well, Black lives are being extinguished in the thousands right now um, by a leader that if you were to go and perform in his country, his city, you'll be covering those lives. You'll be entertainment washing, let's say. It's a sports washing, it'd be entertainment washing. So we encourage all of you to just John Legend. He's at John Legend on Twitter, John Legend on, I think it's the same on Instagram. Hit him up, hit up Global Citizen. We'll put the link in there for Global Citizen as well, so you can get the information on this event. So we can mobilize globally to tell John Legend to say no. That'll send a signal to Kagame like, hey, things have changed. You can't get away with you can't go and kill in the Congo and then host a concert in Kigali. It's not working like that anymore. So that's something that everybody can do. Everyone who has, cell phone, smartphone. So use that coltan and that cobalt phone from the Congo to literally save lives right now, because we need pressure on every conceivable level. So Tito will put in there the link to the Global Citizen. Hit up Global Citizen as well. and we'll share with you their Instagram and their Twitter account. Yeah. So, and what was the other one?
The other one in the second point or the third one?
Oh, you have it. I'm not sure.
Okay, the third one is write a letter. So visit freecongo.org to send a letter to members of the US Congress demanding an end to US military aid to Rwanda. And if you're not in the US, write a letter to the elected officials in your country and request that your leader supports the following demands of the Congolese Foreign Ministry at the UN. The first one of those demands is to order an immediate end to Rwanda's hostilities. Two is impose targeted sanction against those responsible for the aggression. Three, impose an embargo on the export of all minerals labeled as Rwandan, particularly coltan and gold. And four, revoke Rwanda's status as a true contributing country to the UN.
Yeah, that fourth one is fascinating because Rwanda is the number one contributor of UN peacekeepers on the African continent. Right? They contribute more than any other African country. Yet, as they're contributing to peacekeeping in Africa, they're killing peacekeepers in the Congo. You know, the former administration, the Biden administration, Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, issued a direct warning to Rwanda. It's like you're firing surface-to-air missiles on UN peacekeepers, right? So this gives you a sense of the double game that Rwanda plays. That if you don't say anything about Kagame, he is definitely canny, definitely savvy, and he knows how to work the international system. So he'll make himself and his nation, available to these uh, to the global elite, right? And embed himself in a way to do things that they may not want to do, right? And while he's doing that, then he's on the very institution that he's a part of, his soldiers are part of the UN peacekeeping. He's firing, he's killing UN peacekeepers in the uh, in the Congo. And if you follow Kagame in his career, he has no compunction about killing. He's a cold-blooded killer. You just ask Theogen Rudasingwa and Patrick Kajeya, who's no longer around. They were right-hand men of Kagame, and they left. And he basically told them, "We're going to hunt you down like dogs to kill you." They were in South Africa, and he went after them. He got Rudasingwa was shot a few times, but he survived. But Patrick Kajeya, he was assassinated in 2013, and you know that's Kagame. He doesn't hesitate to kill when it comes to acquiring power, maintaining power. Whether you're Tutsi, Hutu, Twa, it doesn't matter. You may put a picture and say, "Oh, we're defending Tutsi." He doesn't have any compunction around killing Tutsis if it serves his interests. So this is what we see with him being the number one provider of peacekeepers in Africa, but yet he's killing peacekeepers in the Congo. In terms of that action, we on freecongo.org, Kito will put it up there. You can write letter if you're in the United States to members of Congress. Our comrades in Congo Action Youth Platform, they have, if you visit their CAYP on Instagram, they have a call to action for the UK where you can send a letter to the ministers there. We're trying to get a link from them that we can share. We've been sharing their action. If you're in the European Union, this is very important. If you're in the European Union, we encourage you there are 27 members of the European Union. They're on social media. Hit them up. Hit them up. Send them, make a video. Send them a video. Send a text. Send them an audio. Hit them up on their accounts on Twitter. A lot of them are on Twitter, and call on them to suspend, to to cease this critical minerals deal that they have with the Rwandan government. As Rwanda captured the largest coltan mine in the east of Congo, the uh, the European Union maintained its deal, its critical minerals deal with Rwanda to get access to critical minerals that ostensibly come from the Congo, especially in the magnitude that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So
Actually, speaking of, there are a few articles that I read. I mean, it's still just talk right now, but like that there are people in the EU right now who are like, I think it's Belgian led, ironically enough, that perhaps also, anyways, that they are like spearheading talks of reevaluating those EU agreements with
yeah,
Rwanda.
okay. So if they're reevaluating, let the people of the EU, the citizens of the EU, let them know that you want them to cease. It's urgent matter. They need to send an urgent message to Paul Kagame and the Rwandan government. We're talking about Paul Kagame and the Rwandan government. People, say, well, you're talking about all the Rwandans. As far as, if you look at the election results where he won the elections, 99.9% of the vote, right? Paul Kagame, that is, then you know that there's some captured folks in Rwanda. When somebody wins an election, quote unquote, wins an election with 99.9% of the vote, that means dissent is deadly. If you dissent, you may wind up in jail or in the grave, right? You do not win 99.9% of the vote in any election unless you've totally locked down any kind of dissent. And in order for you to dissent, and if you do dissent, you'll pay a dear price, right? So we're talking not about the Rwandan people writ large, but the Rwandan government, the Rwandan military, headed by Paul Kagame. So please make those videos, send those text messages, hit up those EU representatives, and we'll be coming up with a list as well that we can share as a resource for those of you who may not know your representatives and all the reps, but send them that message. Demand that they cease, they end the critical minerals deal with the Rwandan government, and that they withhold the monies that they've been sending to Rwanda. Those two demands on the part of the European Union. And there's some other works being done as well, but if we need a street eat, we need, they're very sensitive to, believe it or not, to messages coming to them on social media. So, and that will strengthen the folks who are on the inside. They see, uh, there's a lot happening on the inside, but if they also see messages coming from people in droves, in millions, we need millions and millions. We need the influencers, the artists, to encourage people to send those messages, those video messages, those text messages, audio messages to members of the European Union.
Yeah. As you were speaking, I just thought about it because, like, yeah, a lot of times people like don't engage with Congo because it's been going on for so long, right? Because they say like, oh, the conflict is so complicated, but our asks right now are not complicated, right? Like our asks right now are very simple. It is we want to live, we want the Rwandan forces to depart from Goma, So it's like, and those are messages that people can push easily without getting lost in the perceived complexity.
Absolutely. And if you're in New Zealand, if you're in Australia, if you're in Chile, if you are in Malaysia, wherever you are, reach out to your leadership and ask, what are you doing to stand with the Congolese people and the demands that they're making at the United Nations? There's a war that's being waged against them, and they need the global support. So there's no matter where you are in the world. I mean, I know we specified the UK, we specified the United States, we specified the European Union. We need to talk to our brothers and sisters in Canada to see what they're doing up there in Ottawa as well, in terms of making the demands on the Trudeau government, which is on its way out. They're setting up new elections. But wherever you are in the world, reach out to your government, make that call, send that letter. By virtue of you doing that, you can literally save lives. You certainly can accelerate uh, the end of this catastrophe that we see unfolding in Goma.
Yeah. The fourth is donate to our emergency relief efforts. Donate to the Basandra Emergency Relief GoFundMe campaign to support women and children trapped in the conflict.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that please. We on our GoFundMe. I think Keto can share the GoFundMe link. We'll see if we can pull that up and have him share it. But many of you who may be tuning in actually met folks from the Basanja Coalition. We did a multi-city tour in the U.S. and Canada in 2024, from September to November, where the Basanja Coalition members came and shared with you the work that they're doing on the front lines and how you can support them. Well, they're in need of your support right now, even if you didn't meet them personally. The Basanja Coalition, you can put the website up there too, Kito. I'll put it up there. They are on the front lines, and not only supporting members of their coalition, but also allies as well. They work with at least a dozen institutions on the right there in the camps in Goma itself. Actually, maybe more than a dozen, maybe 2 dozen or so, because one of the organizations they work with is a coalition of organizations. So they're the ones who are, took the mamas, the Mbuti people, and provided them shelter when the bombs were dropping. And right now they're providing food, they're providing water, they're providing shelter. It's in the rainy season, so at first they set up tents for them, and now they're taking it to another level where they're setting up housing with actually purchasing timber and building housing for folks so that they can be protected from the elements in the midst of the rainy season. We'll have some videos that we'll share of the work that they're doing. Uh, be circumspect in what we share because they're under occupation, but you can support them. We've been it's because you've been supporting them that we're able to move the mamas from Bulengo into the city because we were able to provide a space for the Mbuti to to be safe and to be secure. So we encourage you to continue to support that the emergency relief fund on our GoFundMe page, which I don't know if I said Quadro Quito will share. So thanks for that, Camille.
Yeah. And then the fifth one is spread the word. Spread the word about Rwanda's 3-decade-long war of aggression and plunder against the Congolese people by sharing Friends of Congo's action step, but also just educating yourself. This last part I added, it's not part of
Yeah, no, go ahead. Yes, absolutely.
yeah, it's
Absolutely.
educate yourself, talk to folks about this. Because really people are benefiting from the silence of it all, right? It's like if we are not
Mhm.
talking about this, then we're not making enough noise for our demands to be heard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's vital, for folks to educate themselves. And speaking of that, one of the highly recommended tools that we encourage you to not only engage with but also share is our film that we made 13 years ago, um, Crisis in the Congo, uncovering the truth. And we made it with a particular intent to point out the extent to which the Rwandan government and Ugandan and their soldiers were destabilizing the Congo. And it was at that time, just shortly after we made the film in 2011, and it was in 2012 that Rwanda and M23 captured the city of Goma. So this is not the first time. It's not the first go around. It's really important. They captured the city of Goma in 2012, and what made them lift their occupation of Goma was a series of factors. One, there was a lot of diplomatic engagement on the part of U.S. and European nations. President Obama, he was the president at the time, he called Paul Kagame on the phone and he told him just literally, man, just get out of Congo, right? And he called him, and the White House issued a readout with a call between Kagame and and Obama. Incidentally, Kagame didn't get on social media and saying, President Obama's lying. He didn't tell me to get out of Congo.
I mean, I also
So,
think that like Twitter has become like since Trump more of like a political, like, you know, that's what people are debating now on Twitter. But like back then, I don't know that people were as active rebuking
no,
each
they
other.
weren't as active, of course. But so there's a diplomatic pressure, right? And then the UN strengthened its mandate to an often offensive mandate, and that's what brought in the Force Intervention Brigade. That's when we saw South Africa, Malawi, Tanzania sending their forces in. This was initially an African Union initiative that was incorporated by the UN. And so when Kagame today, it's so important to look at this history, right? Because when Kagame today says, well, South Africa doesn't belong there, you know, they'll belong in the Congo. South Africa was there in 2012, fighting your soldiers under the auspices of the UN and the African Union, right? So it's not like South Africa is out of place. This is part of they're part of an international, um, you know, operation in the Congo. And the only reason why they're there is because your soldiers are there killing Congolese, right? So when Kagame said is upset at South Africa, and remember, you know, this is not the first time that Kagame objected to South Africa being there. Just last year, the Rwandan government sent a letter, a communique to the African Union, uh, calling on the African Union to not support South Africans' true presence in the Congo, right? And the African Union rejected it. It's like, no, this is a force intervention brigade. This is something that we championed in 2012. You know, when your soldiers were captured Goma at that time, right? So the force intervention brigade is, you know, is a part of. It was there in 2012, right? So that was strengthened. Uh, Millions of dollars of aid was withheld when Goma was captured in 2012. It hasn't happened today, right? So we're going backwards. So, but with pressure from people, you know, throughout the globe, saying, "Hey, you know, Sweden and Germany and Netherlands, y'all did this in 2012 when Kagame captured the city. You know, UK, why aren't you doing it now? Why aren't you withholding aid now? You know, 3,000 people have been killed in a mass grave there. Uh, Hundreds of women have been raped and burnt alive. So what else do you need? You know, you did it in 2012, so why aren't you doing it in 2025? And in addition to that, you also had the Congolese military stepping up. They had figures like General Boma of, uh, you know, then around the Kisangani area. Uh, you had Mamadou Ndala, who was leading a robust offensive against the Rwandan military. Unfortunately, the um, the Congolese military has not been able to step up. Let me put it that way. I can't say they've not stepped up. They've not been able to step up because of the inadequacies in Kinshasa. They haven't been fully funded. They haven't been fully equipped. And this is just the evidence. I mean, you know, the thousands of Eastern European mercenaries were getting paid, you know, 5, 6, 7 times more than the Congolese soldier. I think Congolese soldier was getting like $100 a month. You know, so it's just there's more that can be done on the part of Kinshasa. And when Gaetan comes on, he'll probably be on Friday. He can really get into that. I'll let him deal with that part of it for sure. You know, I'll go ahead, Camila, if you're saying.
Oh, no, no, no. I'm looking forward to chatting with Gaetan about
Yeah, yeah. When
being
he
on
comes
the
on.
ground in Kinshasa. Because, like, yeah, I'm also, like, you know, here just getting lots of different messages from lots of different parties. So it'll be nice to have
Yeah,
people in
yeah,
Kinshasa tell me what's going on.
yeah. So you know, this is not the first time. The education part is really important. I don't think I have the link yet. I'll share the link before we go, um, Quito, so that you for the crisis in the Congo, uncovering the truth. It's from 2011, but the elements, what's discussed in it, is what we see unfolding today, right? What we discuss in the film is very much apropos for what we see this war of aggression and plunder that is continued. So we encourage you to watch and share the film, and we'll share the link shortly before we sign off. Uh, I think we're going to bring it to a close. Camille, I don't know if you wanted to share anything else around what you've been organizing with folks there in New York and rallying folks, maybe how people are responding, what they're looking to do, and
Yeah.
to,
Yeah, actually, like, there's one thing I want to add, like, back to the, like, educate yourself and, like, get involved with Congo. I think it's also very important for people to, like, get involved in, like, their local politics, because it's like, or like their local, and like learning about their, especially if you're in big cities like New York and all these like cities that have a very rich history, like a connections with the Congo, because they're like, yesterday we were learning about, like, because I went to the soundtrack, I saw the movie soundtrack to Coup d'etat, and then you learn about all these, like, oh, the president, like the board of the MoMA have investments in the minerals in Congo, and were like involved in the overthrowing of Lumumba. And like, it's like all the, like, especially in these big cities, it's important to get organized locally so that you can, because the local organization does give you a broad lens of what's happening in the world. But with or like in general. And but yeah, so I'm building the New York Friends of Congo team, and we are a growing little strong but mighty, little
all
strong
right,
but mighty
all right,
group for now. We are organizing much around like the Friends of the Congo task force, but also trying to Friends of the Congo action items, but also trying to have specific task force with, I think I was saying, mutual aid orgs, and also, what is it that, like, doing education teach-ins. And yeah, it was still new, like, so we're still figuring it out.
good. Yes, we need to
Might have
rally folks.
more.
Yeah, rally folks locally. And
Yeah.
speaking of education, highly recommend soundtrack to Coup d'etat.
Mhm.
If you would, if it's not showing in your city, you'd like to screen it, just hit us up. Hit us up on IG. Let us know. Hit us up on Twitter that you'd like to screen it, and we'll work with you to make sure that you can get access to screen it. Remarkable film that is very much relevant, to this very day, even though it deals with the assassination of Lumumba. But
Mhm.
highly recommend soundtrack to a coup d'état, and as a part of your educational process in learning about the Congo. Because what we see unfolding in the Congo today is directly connected to what the United States did in 1960 in overthrowing Patrice Lumumba. They mounted the largest covert action in the world, according to
Mhm.
their own documents, to overthrow this democratically elected leader
Mhm.
and subsequently install a dictatorship on the Congolese people.
Yeah.
So robbing the Congo of its leadership, its visionary leadership,
Mhm.
was devastating for the country.
Yeah.
And that 60 years later, it reverberates to this very day.
Mhm. And it's like, it was the US, but and like part of the UN as well. Like, it's like the
Oh yeah,
US, the
very yes.
UN, like CIA, MI6, the Belgians intelligence forces, all of them working together. Like in the movie, there's even a line where there's like, oh, okay, y'all have sent too many people out to kill Lumumba. There's a line, somewhat, there's like, oh yeah, y'all can can back off. There are too many of them plotting to kill him. And yeah, anyways, highly recommend the movie as a starting point to understand, as well as like, I think it pairs pretty well actually with the documentary Crisis in Congo.
Okay, good.
um yeah.
Excellent.
Mhm.
All right. So thank you all so much. Again, this is about action. There's
Yeah.
very specific things that each and every one of you can do, on various levels. No matter where you are in the world, people are asking us, what can we do? What can we do? The action items are there on our Instagram page. Visit freecongo.org. That's a space that we encourage you to share with everybody. But I don't know if you want to just run just the highlight of the actions again as we wrap up.
Yes, I can go
Camille.
quickly. The first one is demonstrate at the embassies, at the Rundi's embassy. The second is don't visit Rwanda and like campaign against like public figures and institutions who have ties with the Rwandese government. Third is write a letter, whether it is to your U.S. Representative, Congress representative, or to your UN leaders in the rest in parts of the world, and in wow, words disappearing. Anyways, the European Union. Also write a letter if you're in Europe to your European, um, yeah, to your leader representative. Donate to our emergency relief efforts, and spread the word and educate yourself about
Beautiful,
what's happening.
beautiful. Yeah, just to give you thanks, Camille. Just to give you an idea, sister hit us up this morning. She's like, I want to translate your call to action in Brazilian Portuguese, or like go for it. You
Yeah.
know, so whatever language, if you want to translate it to Italian, you know, if you want to translate it to Spanish, whatever language that you to Japanese, you name it. We
Yeah.
encourage you to translate the call to action in your local languages and get and mobilize folks to engage with them. All right, Camille, we'll be catching up with folks again. We'll be back probably on Friday with Gaitan. But stay with us on at Congo Friends on our social media platforms. Join the movement, take action, get involved. Free Congo, freecongo.org.
Free
So thank you
Congo.
all. Free Congo, yes.
Congo will be
Each and every one
free.
of us can play a role in freeing Congo. Congo needs you. Thank you.
You.
Thank you all. All right, Camille, we'll talk. All
Yes.
right, peace, peace.